It's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, how local road crews are working nonstop this week to keep drivers safe.
But we get colder as we press into the weekend, but we do get a little respite from the freezing rain and drizzle. However, we're going to talk flurries and future snow. The latest from the Skywatch.
And we speak with comic book artist Andy Parks. The KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts right now.
Bad news. It's staying cold for the next several days. Let's go ahead and bring in Michael Hayslip to get an idea of how dangerous temps can be. Michael?
Yep, I'm going to find a silver lining first before we transition into our road conditions, and that's the fact that all the freezing rain right now is staying down through central Arkansas. Now, we do have heavy cloud cover, and as Tanya alluded to, it's going to be tremendously cold. At the same point in time, you see the laundry list of cancellations there running down on the bottom of your screen, and of course, you can always check those at KOAMnewsnow.com as well. And while the roads get a little bit better, here's the thing. They're not going to have a chance to entirely clear off anytime soon, because we're not even going to come close to, I don't know, that magical 32-degree number that we need at some point in time. Nah, we don't even have a 20 on the board here at the 7 o'clock hour. For the Freeman Health System sky camera, it does kind of make for a pretty campus with the snow sticking around. But if you do have to go out and about, number one, the first recommendation is stay at home. Don't even try the roads. Our road crew's doing a tremendous job, but you can't keep up with Mother Nature. Number two, it's dangerously cold outside. You're going to be better off. You're going to be safer in the comfort of your own home. Those are the actual temperatures. Now, when we talk about wind chills, we've got negative numbers up to the north. Nevada and Stockton now feeling like it's 3 below. Groves at 9, Lamar, the big goose egg. And that's because the cold Canadian air has penetrated all the way down into the deep southern portion of the United States. We've got winter weather advisories that last from West Texas all the way through the Tennessee River Valley to the East Coast because of the freezing rain that we're seeing right now in Arkansas. We're only going to see light flurries today. That's not too bad for us considering what we've had first several days this week. And then Friday, looks like we're going to stay on the dry side and maybe even get a peek of sunshine. But Saturday is when we begin to kind of skirt around our corners with some snow and then more freezing rain down to the south, and then a good one coming our way from Sunday into Monday. As this thing comes out of really the south is what we'll pay attention to, kind of bears its way through Texas and Oklahoma, and then makes a little northeasterly turn. Sunday night into Monday is when it really gets on it. And then we've got to talk about a stretch that we haven't really seen up until January of 2014. Last time we had an elongated period of this cold, and look at those overnight lows dropping into the negatives. Those are not wind chills. Those are actual overnight lows. Tanya?
Whew. Just stay warm. Well, warming stations provide a place for people to come in from the cold, but we're living in a time when the air inside presents its own danger. So what are these traditional warming stations doing to keep people safe during the pandemic? At Joplin Salvation Army, they're trying to limit the number of people inside the warming station at any given time, and that means people are allowed inside in shifts.
We're here just to serve the community. That's what we wanted to do. My wife and I, we do this as a team. We're here to get back to the community, do what we can to help out the citizens of this area.
Joplin Souls Harbor tells us they're allowing people to warm up in their chapel at 817 Main Street. Again, it's best if you just stay home, but even at home, there are still safety issues you need to keep in mind. If you plan on fighting the cold with a space heater, Joplin's fire chief says you should follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to safely operate it. Don't leave it unattended, and don't leave it near something flammable like blankets or curtains. If you have a fireplace, officials ask that you plan ahead and have it checked before using it. The extreme cold has forced the Pittsburgh Police Department to postpone its annual Polar Plunge. Organizers say the low temps would make it difficult to keep people socially distant while inside the Crimson Villas building. The event will instead take place on Saturday, February 27th. Everything else remains the same, though. The Costume contest will be at 11:30 a.m. and the plunge begins at noon. And of course, all proceeds will benefit Special Olympics Kansas. Winter weather presents continued challenges for road crews across the 4 states. KDOT has had road crews out almost non-stop since Sunday, clearing state highways across southeast Kansas. They've had 27 trucks out, putting out hundreds of tons of salt and chemicals to melt the ice. So far, they've had no trouble restocking on salt and plan to watch conditions closely into the overnight hours. On the Missouri side, MoDOT crews are running all day and night to keep roads safe. They're applying a sand and salt mixture and ask that while they're doing that, drivers stay well away from their trucks.
Right where they're treating, it may not be in the best, it still could be ice right now because it takes a little bit for the salt to melt it. Stay back. We don't, you don't want to get up underneath them because they're trying to treat the road. We'd hate for somebody to have to shut our sanders and spinners off because a car was too close to us.
MoDOT says if you can, it's best to just stay home. MoDOT covers only a few roads in the city of Joplin. The city is responsible for the rest, and the city tells us its focus is on main roads. Residential streets are treated only if people call and the city is able to get a truck through easily. They also say they've had enough road treatment on hand to get through this bout of bad weather. A doctor at Freeman ER tells us broken wrists are the most common serious injuries from slipping and falling on ice. You can help prevent those slips and falls with ice melt. It's in high demand right now, but stores like Hinkle's Hardware and Webb City say they're good on supply. But they do have to restock constantly. If you're going to pick up some ice melt, there is something else you should keep in mind.
Right now it's ice melt because it's freezing, but with these cold temperatures, we're really concerned about frozen pipes. When it gets down, usually the magic number for frozen pipes around here is 10.
Hinkle's Hardware is located on Madison in Webb City. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its 2021 nominees. 16 artists or bands are on the list, including Mary J. Blige, Kate Bush, LL Cool J, Foo Fighters, The Go-Go's, Dionne Warwick, Jay-Z, Carole King, Rage Against the Machine, Tina Turner. Well, to be eligible, the nominee must have released their first commercial recording at least 25 years ago. Inductees will be announced in May, and the public can participate in the induction process. Through April 30th, fans can vote every day on the Hall of Fame's website or at its museum in Cleveland, Ohio. Top 5 artists selected by voters will be tallied along with other ballots to pick the inductees. They'll be honored during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in the fall.
All right.
Quite a list.
This feels like an opportunity to rip into Cleveland, but I'm going to pass on that. I'd like to ask you guys what your thoughts are on the idea that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has completely expanded beyond rock and roll. Are you for this or are you against this? Clearly you're
rock and
feeling very
roll
strongly.
is just kind of like the origins of everything. Everything great musical.
I thought it was, well, okay. Wait, Carole King, look, you can't go wrong with any of these people. Let's just let them all in. They all deserve it.
So you think like LL Cool J wouldn't fit because he's more of a hip hop?
Well, now he fits because historically, there's, inductees like, I believe the Notorious B.I.G.'s in there. I believe Tupac's in there. So, it's sort of expanded beyond rock and roll. So I guess I wonder at what point is this no longer the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? This is me just giving Cleveland a hard time. I apologize. This is coming from a personal place.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah.
Gets deeper. Deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. What do we have coming up next?
All right. Well, up next, fighting vaccine skepticism.
The vaccine rollout continues, but will enough people get the vaccine to help end the pandemic? I'm Jackie Ibanez with a look at why some Americans are saying no to the shots, coming up.
And the U.S. ambassador of Vietnam drops a rap single, and it's just as bad as you're thinking. Not Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy. We'll show you the music video and reaction online. You're watching the KOAM Morning News right here on Fox 14.
Missouri teachers might not be fully vaccinated for COVID-19 until the end of the school year. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services says teachers will get the first dose of the vaccine in April, meaning they likely won't get the second dose until early summer. Meanwhile, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education told lawmakers they're encouraging schools to return to in-person learning. They hosted webinars sharing research that shows transmission of the virus in schools is low, with preventative measures such as masks and social distancing. Fears surrounding COVID-19 vaccinations could prevent the country from wiping out the pandemic, as experts say there's currently not enough people willing to get vaccinated. Jackie Ibanez is taking a look at new research revealing what's causing the hesitation.
A new Associated Press NORC poll finds 67% of Americans say they will get a coronavirus vaccine. But health officials are calling other results from the recent survey disturbing, with 1 in 3 Americans saying they, quote, definitely or probably won't get the COVID-19 vaccine, citing concerns the shot will produce horrible side effects, adding they don't trust the government's involvement.
I think it was personal fear and probably lack of trust.
According to the AP, people who were more inclined to be skeptics include those without a college education, blacks, and Republicans.
We all have a greater duty than to just ourselves.
Officials say more needs to be done to increase knowledge about vaccines, squash myths, and calm people's nerves.
How are we going to get our people to trust Dr. Fauci and the people that we know are the experts, apply data to their decision rather than intuition?
But skepticism isn't stopping states from creating more opportunities for people to get vaccinated. New mass vaccination sites in New York and California just opened, with 3 more in Texas by the end of the month. But in the dead of winter, even those who want to get vaccinated say the process to do so can be risky.
I don't think people 75 years and older should be out in 30-degree weather, first of all. I think that's ridiculous.
So far, around 3% of the country has been fully vaccinated. Dr. Anthony Fauci says at least 70% must be vaccinated in order to help put a stop to the pandemic. If you're near St. Louis and you're in need of a free meal, there's a deli that already has your food waiting for you. That's right, the small brick wall of Ruma's Deli in St. Charles is lined with receipts, each one representing a prepaid meal, giving less fortunate residents an opportunity to get one of those free meals courtesy of someone in the community. Pay It Forward system at Ruma started with one customer who wanted to pay for someone else's food. It's now snowballed to more than 50 free meals for whoever needs them. Ruma's encourages people who are down on their luck to not be embarrassed, take advantage of the free food. And we just did a story yesterday about this exact same thing going on at a restaurant in Miami, Oklahoma.
That's right, we did. Skywatch Storm Tracker, heavy cloud cover, light flurries. That's all it will amount to, so that is the positive aspect as the freezing rain and drizzle stays throughout central Arkansas. However, Benton County still going to ride the winter weather advisory until 8 a.m. Winter weather advisory stretching from West Texas all the way to the East Coast. Dangerously cold temperatures from the Freeman Health System sky camera. Only 15 degrees right now, ranging everywhere from about 13 to 18. We're going to be hard pressed to even get past the low 20s later on today. It looks like it's going to be dry on Friday, maybe even the peak of some sunshine. Then when we get to the weekend, going to have some snow skirt the corners on Saturday. Good system works in Sunday afternoon into the nighttime hours and takes us into widespread snow for Monday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
A normally buttoned down U.S. ambassador is getting cheers and jeers for making a rap video, and the State Department says it's a good thing he's keeping his day job. Jeannie Moose reports on our boy in Hanoi.
What do you get when diplomacy meets rap? Meet the rapping ambassador.
Time for introductions are at hand. Hi, my name is Dan.
U.S. Ambassador to Vietnam, Daniel Crittenbrink, normally heard at panels and press conferences saying things like,
Great, thanks for your question.
Now he's busting rhymes.
I'm from Nebraska. I'm not a big city boy. Then 3 years ago, I moved to Hanoi.
He even attempted to rap in Vietnamese.
Suan oi suan dave.
All to wish the Vietnamese people happy Lunar New Year, known as Tet.
Tet in Vietnam is the tops. I love the hot spots and hot pots.
One critic called it the Tet Offensive in reverse, referring to when the North Vietnamese attacked the South in 1968. Think this violates the Geneva Convention, snarked someone else, as the ambassador celebrated holiday rituals accessorized with headphones and a brush.
Clean the house now, friends are on the way.
Many were charmed, possibly the most delightfully dorky act of international relations ever, and many locals seemed smitten. So cute.
US and Vietnam, from now to forever, we're trusted partners, prospering together.
A State Department spokesman described it as using soft power to connect at a human level, in this case through Ambassador Crittenbrink's commendable attempted rap. We're glad he's keeping his important day job as a U.S. diplomat. He is, after all, a career diplomat, but why settle for the title of ambassador when you can sign off?
From your boy in Hanoi.
Your boy in Hanoi doesn't just shake hands, he slaps them 3 times, then smooths his hair. They don't teach you that at the UN. The ambassador got tips from Vietnamese rapper Wowie.
You like it? I like it a lot.
At least the rap against this guy isn't that he's stuffy, more like puffy.
This is too good. A for effort. And ambassador. We'll be right back.
It's time to honor today's 4-state hero, Franklin Badger, a member of the United States Navy from 2001 to 2017. He completed 3 deployments in the Atlantic during the War on Terror. His hometown, Columbus, Kansas. We're proud to salute Franklin Badger, our 4-state hero. Cold weather raises concerns in Miami, Oklahoma for pets, specifically one dog named Boomer. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky has more.
Boomer has been the talk of the town. He gained his popularity on Facebook, where disturbed Miami residents posted their worry for the dog's well-being. Joe Honeycutt grew up in Miami. Although he no longer lives there, he is still active in the community and decided to take action online.
Well, I had been reading several posts that day that were related to this same dog, and I wanted to kind of get to the bottom of what was going on and see if there was any way that I could help influence the situation.
Joe says he used Facebook to reach Boomer's owner.
I decided to go onto the public website and make a post, and I reached out to the gentleman himself. And I had told him that there's such an importance to leaving your animals inside in the cold.
And this outrage from the community online is what caused police to get more involved. Miami Police Chief Thomas Anderson says they had a meeting with city officials after the dog's rise online.
The city manager, after receiving numerous complaints, wanted to make sure that the situation was controlled and where the city's doing everything we can within the law to make sure this animal's, taken care of.
Anderson says they've known about the issue since November of last year. Boomer's actually gotten a lot better since then, and according to Anderson, gained 40 pounds. He says animal control is involved, which helped.
He's taking way better care of the animal than he was just a few months ago, and that's because our animal control has done a great job of working with him for the benefit of the animal.
Anderson clarifies that he's glad the community is looking out for these animals, but they know Boomer is doing better.
If you see an animal that is out, let's check on him. I know we've got numerous calls on this one, but we know this dog has improved and has everything he needs to have.
In Miami, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Anderson says animal control is keeping close tabs on Boomer. Well, another half hour of news and weather just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We might be getting sick of the winter weather here in the 4 states, but in some places around the nation, it's actually drawing tourists. We're going to look at the rising interest in small ski towns.
And speaking of drawing, we're speaking with illustrator and comic book artist Andy Parks, who's joining us ahead of the Neosho ArtCon, which starts tonight. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:29. Let's take a look at today's top stories. In their first full day of arguments in their case against former President Trump, House impeachment managers showed senators terrifying new video of the deadly insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. That included pointing out just how close the rioters came to the senators. Democratic prosecutors alleging former President Donald Trump's incitement began well before his January 6th speech to rally-goers, with repeated calls to stop the steal. Today brings the second and final full day of House arguments, with the Trump's legal team taking the lectern Friday and Saturday for up to 16 hours to lay out their defense. The winter weather presents continued challenges for road crews across the 4 states. KDOT has had road crews out almost nonstop since Sunday, clearing state highways across southeast Kansas. They've had 27 trucks out, putting out hundreds of tons of salt and chemicals to melt the ice. So far, they've had no trouble restocking on salt and planned on watching conditions closely overnight.
This is what we do. Our people have done this for a long time. They're very experienced at what they do. The main thing is to get out to the public. We just need to be careful when the conditions are like this, especially when they're really cold and you got moisture. Those two things are critical, moisture and cold. And if it gets too cold and too much moisture, you have big problems.
Nelson says if conditions did not get worse into the overnight hours, they would be able to take a break, but they planned on getting out as soon as the roads did get worse. On the Missouri side, MoDOT crews are running all day and night to keep roads safe. They're applying a sand and salt mixture and ask that while they're doing that, drivers stay well away from their trucks. Again, it's best if you just stay home, but even at home, there are still safety issues you need to keep in mind. If you plan on fighting the cold with a space heater, Joplin's fire chief says you should follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to safely operate it. Don't leave it unattended and don't leave it near something flammable like blankets or curtains. If you have a fireplace, officials ask that you plan ahead and have it checked before using it. Well, the weather is cold and people need to be inside, but because of the pandemic, people need to avoid close contact with others, and that creates a problem for warming stations where people can come in to escape the cold. The Joplin Salvation Army is trying to mitigate the risk by having people come inside in shifts. That way, no large group is congregating at once. Joplin Souls Harbor tells us they're allowing people to warm up in their chapel at 817 Main Street.
Like you said, Tanya, the best thing to do today is to stay inside and stay off the roads, because while our road crews are doing a marvelous job, it's hard to keep up with the freezing rain and drizzle that we've had earlier this week. Now, it was brought to my attention, if it weren't so dangerously cold, that'd be pretty cool right there from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin. Weather Almanac for today, record low dates back to 1981 when we got down to -8. Luckily, we won't get that cold, but wait until you see the temperatures here at the end of the week on the 7-day forecast. Light flurries is all that it will amount to. We've got about 20 minutes left for the 30 minutes left for the Benton, Arkansas winter weather advisory. Give you an idea of exactly where it stretches here from West Texas, Tennessee River Valley, all the way to the East Coast. Back to Freeman, let's check on temperatures, because like we said, the best thing to do today is stay inside. 15 degrees, 14 in Pittsburgh, how about 17 in Cassville and 16 in Chanute. Now, when we factor in that northeast breeze, negative wind chills running from Fort Scott, Nevada and Stockton, Iola, all the way down to 4 below zero. Anderson sits right now with a wind chill of 5. Now, at least positive aspect, all that frozen precip rolling through central Arkansas right now, and that's why we're just going to see light flurries today. But no melt in sight, as we're only going to make it up into the low 20s. And this is going to be something else overnight too, because the north wind picks up. And so that overnight low and even tomorrow morning, easily going to see a lot more negative numbers than what we saw today. Friday is going to stay on the dry side, maybe even get a little sunshine here by the time Friday's over. And then Saturday, kind of skirt the corners as far as some snow, and down to the south, some additional freezing rain popping up. But really looking at Sunday into Monday, because we've got a large system that develops here and comes out of the southern plains. And look at that thing get on us right there. It's going to be widespread into Monday. Get an idea, a better idea of accumulation numbers here after it gets over the Rockies tomorrow. And then the dangerous temperatures just continue. Overnight lows, those are not wind chill numbers. Those are actual temperatures. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. KOMNewsNow.com Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, the CDC recommendation coming out that advises 2 masks to slow the spread of the coronavirus, asking if you do that. Katrina Stengel says, no way in the bleep am I wearing 2 masks. This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't wear 1, let alone 2, except at my job, and I have no choice there. JJ Gentner says, remember, if we wear a mask for 3 weeks, we will stop the spread of the pandemic, he asks. And Andrea Brew says some people still believe them and will actually do it. Instapoll this morning, 77% of you saying no, not going to wear more than 1 mask. Now it's time to turn it over to Jesse in Studio K.
Well, kicking off tonight is ArtCon, courtesy of Neosho Arts Council, and it's all virtual. And so naturally, we're being joined virtually by one of the panelists this year, Andy Parks. Andy, I am so excited to be able to speak with you for many reasons, one of which being you are from the state of Kansas. You grew up outside of Kansas City. What is it like to be based in the middle of the country and be able to have such a successful career in something that has traditionally needed to be an in-person experience? You've needed to be on the coast for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was lucky. The generation before me, those guys, and I say guys because unfortunately comics have usually been dominated by a male talent pool. That's expanding now happily. But those guys tend to need to be in Connecticut or somewhere they could drop the pages in New York. In my day, it was helpful if you could go to New York and maybe get your face in the editor's office. But the work was all starting to be shipped via FedEx, so it didn't matter so much where you were. Now, it's hardly ever even FedEx. It's digital files zipping around the country. And that worked out well for me. I have a career wife, so I was able to be fluid, follow her to wherever her job might take her. It did land us back here in Kansas, where we're both from.
Have you seen a big shift in your industry, not just in terms of, the appreciation of it almost? I mean, people have always loved comics and it's always had its core base of fans, but I feel like over the last maybe 2 decades, and maybe it started with the Spider-Man or Iron Man movies, but have you seen a rise in sort of, or a resurgence in the excitement around it and the pop culture around it?
Yeah, we've had an opportunity in comics, I think, to introduce people to the medium who didn't come to it as children. It's in America, it's tended to be kind of a entertainment that's geared towards young readers. Now, because of the success of the films and TV shows, we have people who were not aware of these stories, and maybe now they're finding a way to seek out in a bookstore and a comic book store. They're like, well, I dug the Captain America movie. I think I'd like to read some about him. So, and it's good. I think comics have done a pretty good job in capitalizing on that opportunity to introduce readers to these characters in a basic way that lets them build their own understanding as they experience the stories.
I'd be amiss if I didn't mention some of the different characters that you've covered, and I'm sure I'm going to leave some out. But I mean, from Ant-Man to Nightwing to Green Arrow. You recently had your work Ciudad adapted into Extraction, which, am I wrong by saying that, isn't it Netflix's most streamed movie of all time?
That's what they said. They said it was the most viewed thing they'd ever had. So there was an upside and a downside. Obviously, nobody wanted the pandemic to happen, and the pandemic happening limited my ability to go out and promote the movie and so on. But it aired on Netflix at a time when everybody was at home watching Netflix. So yeah, we gained a lot of eyeballs, and not just in America. I mean, around the world, it was a big sensation.
It's amazing. And I know you worked with the Russo brothers on that, who are, also sort of staples of the industry. It's really neat. And I want to continue my conversation with you about this, but I know that that's what this panel tonight is for. So we just really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Really quickly before you go, do you have any advice for kids who are comic book lovers, or they might not even be kids, maybe it's adults, who have dreamed about working in the industry, whether it's writing or illustrating or publishing? What's the best way to get into this industry, especially in the world we live in today?
I have some universal wisdom that I try to impart to people when they come out to me at shows and they say, I want to make comics. I always ask them, so where is it? Show me something. And often they don't have anything except some doodles in a sketchbook. And I say, look, next time I see you, if I come back to this town next year, bring me some comics. And you know what? It's not even as hard as going out to Kinko's and printing your own comics anymore. You can put them on a blog. You can share them through social media. Just start making comics. There's only one good way to get better at something, and that's doing it. And there's nothing, comics are a beautiful medium. Your imagination and ability to put marks on a piece of paper or on a digital tablet are the only limitations. So really just start building that skill set by doing and doing and doing.
Andy, we really, really appreciate it. I know you're a blogger as well, so we'll have the link to Andy's work on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Andy, thank you so much, sir.
Pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back here on the KOAM Morning News right after this.
The U.S. has seen a boom in gun sales. Firearm purchases skyrocketed over 75% year over year in January. Concerns over the Capitol riots, COVID-19, and national unrest seemingly sparked the sales hike. FBI says it conducted over 4.3 million background checks last month, compared to 2.7 a year earlier. Academics who study gun ownership and industry experts say those spurring the surge are mostly the industry's core base of white male and politically conservative customers. More snowbirds are leading towards ski town getaways over beach vacation homes. Experts say the pandemic is driving the shift. Katie Byrne has the story from Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania.
And this is his first time on skis.
William Paulina and his wife have 2 kids under 5 who are just learning how to ski.
They'll go with mommy and daddy up to the Bunny Hill, and we'll ski together.
They're from New York, and it's a 2-hour drive for them to ski here in the Poconos. They love it so much they got a vacation house so they could come here every other weekend.
I got to tell you, the kids, as soon as we pack them up in the car and start hitting the road, they just like, oh, we're going to Pennsylvania, we're going to Pennsylvania, we're going to Pennsylvania, and they're so excited.
The Paulinas aren't the only ones. Pocono Mountains real estate is seeing a record surge in sales.
There's not a lot of homes to go around. Actually, in my 26 years, it's at an all-time low.
Owner Dominic Sacchi says it's driven by the pandemic.
I remember when there was 100 homes for sale in this community. This morning, there are 2.
A new report from Realtor.com shows more people in the Northeast and Midwest are interested in ski towns over beach towns.
So we took a look at what folks from these metro areas that typically are snowbird metro areas. So for people who usually look for homes in Florida, and what we found is that we were seeing a big increase in their interest in ski towns.
Searches for homes in ski towns jumped 36% in the last few months of 2020.
Instead of looking for a getaway destination that's a little bit further away, they're looking for something that's close to home.
It doesn't surprise Joe, who drives 2 hours from New Jersey to ski at Blue Mountain with his kids.
With the COVID-19 that we're dealing with and all, it seems to be something that you could do well in social distance.
For families like his and the Paulinas,
it's so much more fun.
Changing the scenery of being, cooped up at home due to the pandemic, it was everything for us.
I talked to families here who say it's COVID-friendly for the most part since everyone's covered up in gear, and it's a good way to get kids to take a break from electronics now that online learning is the new norm in so many places.
We'll be right back with more after this.
Well, it is time for What the Tech. A little fun fact for you. 20 years ago today, Three Rivers Stadium in Pennsylvania was imploded. And speaking of 3 things that come together, like rivers, 3 space missions are converging on Mars this month. The U.S., I know that's a crazy reach, bear with me. The U.S., China, and the United Arab Emirates are all sending spacecraft into the red planet's orbit. Benjamin Hall has more on this.
February will be an unusually busy month on Mars. Chinese state media announcing the country's spacecraft swung into Mars's orbit on Wednesday after traveling nearly 300 million miles over 7 months. It's expected to land on the surface in the coming months, and if the attempt goes as planned, the probe will release a rover to study the planet's geological structure and look for signs of water. Just 1 day ago, another spacecraft entered the red planet's orbit, this one coming from the United Arab Emirates, which became the first Arab country to reach Mars. For nearly 2 years, the HOPE orbiter will gather information about the planet's atmosphere and weather.
We'll be getting understandings of the lower atmosphere and the upper atmosphere. We also have visible images of Mars, and at the same time, we also measure the hydrogen and oxygen halo of Mars using ultraviolet.
And next week, the US will attempt to land another spacecraft on Mars. The mission marks NASA's 9th to the Red Planet. The rover will spend at least 2 years collecting samples and looking for past or present life. It was officially given the name the Perseverance last March.
Never be making history without perseverance. Perseverance and curiosity together are what exploration is all about.
The 3 different missions launched in July to benefit from the close proximity between the Earth and Mars, which occurs every 2 years. Well, SpaceX CEO Elon Musk is getting closer to a breakthrough in yet another industry. Yeah, the man who privatized space travel and made electric cars sleek is now beaming internet service down from the ether. SpaceX's Starlink internet service is now accepting pre-orders online. Starlink provides an internet connection using an array of satellites. According to the company's website, Starlink is available to a limited number of users per coverage area on a first-come, first-served basis. The company says initial beta service is now available both domestically and internationally. USA Today reports that the hardware for setup costs $499, we'll call it $500, and the service itself goes for $100 a month. Michael, we talk about space a lot, and obviously Elon Musk
This is the final frontier.
Right, it is the final. People have call him a marketing genius because of the way he goes about sales for items. Pre-orders. He's said pre-orders have been a huge part of his ability to make things happen. The final push of financing projects like
no capital call. People gonna pay in advance.
Oh yeah,
I mean, have to worry about that with investors.
Well, they announced that Tesla in January had invested $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, and they did that, and the price of Bitcoin shot up 30%.
And you answered my question during that story because I was thinking, okay, satellite orbits the Earth. How do I prevent outage? So it's an array of satellites that they're going to use.
Well, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking about satellites that were being set up. Was that Elon Musk? This was last year maybe when they were setting them up?
I remember the one you're talking about. I don't remember the details.
Okay, but there were maybe like 1,000, yeah.
Yeah, so the small ones too.
Right.
All right, Jesse, let's jump to the Skywatch Storm Tracker. We tried to get a little break in our clouds up to the northwest. Now we're growing in cloud cover once again. It's going to be a mostly cloudy Thursday. We're only going to see light flurries, though. We're not going to have to worry about the freezing precipitation. That's going to move down to the southeast where we see the winter weather warnings and advisories along this line from southwest Texas all the way to the east coast. We concern ourselves with the color contour and the dangerously cold temperatures from the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin. 15 degrees is where we stand right now. Nothing even at the 20-degree mark, ranging from about 13 to 18. We've seen plenty of negative numbers popping up. Clubhouse leader is going to be Nevada and Stockton right now at 4 below. Low 20s today. Overnight, it's even going to be colder because the north wind kicks up. See some gusts 20 to 25 miles per hour. Got the flurries today, got dry Friday. Then on Saturday, we're going to skirt the corners up to the north, down to the south. Really want to concern ourselves with, you guessed it, watch the reemergence of freezing rain right there. Right now it wants to stay through central Arkansas, but give that thing a couple 60, 70 mile push and it's going to be on us. And then this is the one that I think everybody's eyeballing right here, Sunday afternoon all the way into Monday morning. That's going to be some widespread snow. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. House managers and former President Trump's Senate impeachment trial played a series of chilling and violent videos from the Capitol riot, some not previously seen. Using the former president's past tweets and words, they said he was the insider-in-chief. They argued he fanned the flames well before the January 6th riot and efforts to overturn the election. In the war against COVID-19, there is promising news on double masking. The CDC now says wearing a medical mask under a cloth mask substantially improve containment of the virus and can also protect the wearer from infection. Larry Flynt, who built a business empire with Hustler magazine, has died at his Los Angeles home. Flynt, who was paralyzed by a sniper in 1978, became an advocate for First Amendment rights. He was depicted in the 1996 film The People vs. Larry Flynt. Larry Flynt was 78. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Flurries is all we'll see today. No freezing rain or drizzle, but dangerously cold. Single-digit wind chills for the entire day. Look at the right-hand side. Didn't have a chance to point this out earlier. Whoo! All the way into next week. We haven't run a string like this since about 2014.
From thousands of footsteps left in the snow is a maze to Finnish residents near the capital, Helsinki. Volunteers in snowshoes combine complex geometric patterns in the snow to create what resembles huge snowflakes. How pretty. The drawing measures about 525 feet, pun intended, in diameter. The artist in charge of the work says it took 2 days to complete. A lot of coordination, too.
You were the one who got out of line.
Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning.
More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.